I do have one gentleman who works for me. He's worked for me for a long time. And he is furious when we're in a meeting with somebody who hasn't done their research on us and looks at him the whole meeting
Girl.
because they believe that he is the decision maker and the senior person in the room. He just goes crazy about it.
Welcome to 99 Humans. My name is Jeff LaCosta, curious coach and Wall Street Journal best-selling author, striving to understand how little things generate big impact.
And I'm Nadia Carta, tech executive and lifestyle coach with a mission to transform lives and corporations by kindling hearts to generate a zeal for life.
Each week, we investigate stories about the human side of leadership to re-energize your spirit and help you become a stronger leader.
Because the reality is that leadership is messy, goofy, challenging, but always human.
Thanks for spending time with us today. Let's dive in.
So hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Jeff and Nancy, it's good to see you today.
Hi, great to be here.
Good to see you, Nadia. Yes, Nancy, I'm so excited for this conversation. Thanks for joining on it's a cold Friday here in Atlanta. Where does this podcast find you in the world?
Me in New York City, which is cold as well.
Oh my God, today is absolutely freezing. My husband and I did a little staycation last night at the Edition. I opened the door and I was like, I was not expecting a negative temperature.
I go to the gym at 6 a.m. and I had to wait. I was late because I had to defrost all the windows on my car. And it took an extra, 10 minutes just to leave the driveway, basically.
Oh, so Jeff, I hope that one day you can meet Nancy in person when you travel back to New York, because Nancy is what I define a force of nature and a trailblazer. I had the pleasure to meet her 2 years ago. We worked together. And what I love about Nancy, on top of her digital marketing expertise, is her leadership. And so today we're going to dive into her leadership style, which is pretty unique. And she has an incredible story that every time I hear it, I get goosebumps. And I will say that as a woman, we need more role models like you, Nancy.
Thank you.
So if you want to start with telling us, what are you up to these days?
I am currently the CEO of Mindshare, a large advertising agency. I run the North America business.
No small feat, everybody. Just a couple of thousands people organization.
It's challenging and it's fun and really rewarding.
Well, Nancy, how did you come to find yourself in such an incredible role? I know your background is amazing, but will you share a few of the high points that lead to something so influential?
Sure. I started in this industry in the 90s. And funny story about how I wound up in this business. I found an ad in the paper version of the New York Times. I cut it out and faxed my resume for the role. It was a sales job in media at fashionmodel.com. And I began my career in this industry through that experience. I love to tell that story, especially to people that don't know what a fax machine is, because it's just ironic that it started that way. And today I am a no paper person and operate in a world of digital and technology.
Well, I say it's remarkable. And I'm very thankful that you said that story, because not only you are in the digital space, but Jeff, just for you to know, Nancy is one of the savviest CEOs in her industry for all things data, technology, and AI. So this transformation, Nancy, from sending a fax to be one of the leading leaders, did you always have a vision that you've been trailblazing in the space like this?
No, but in thinking about my career early on, I always knew that I wanted to work in a growth industry and one that I could learn in every day be challenged, and feel rewarded. And I've been able to accomplish those things by working in this business. And it's led to a passion for things like data and technology and how tools can help us to be more effective in our roles.
Nancy, I love this. The hunger for constant learning is something that, as Nadia and I interview amazing leaders, seems to be something that we all share in common. And I'm curious to hear kind of how you balance your source for that challenge. So obviously a role like you have is providing a lot of opportunities to learn. But across your career, I'm curious if your job has always been the main source of challenge and growth opportunities, or how you sort of create other things outside of that that are helping you grow.
Yeah, I have a funny story about that as well, which is I started off my career in the fashion industry. I decided I work on the wholesale side of the business. So I wanted to be strategic and I wanted to be challenged. So I decided that by picking different items from the collection of the season and selling those specific items to my clients, I could direct the cutting tickets for what would get produced. And I would then actually execute on this approach of deciding what I thought would be the best jackets and dresses and skirts and pants for my clients and wind up directing those actual production of those different items. But in general, to your question, I'm a lifelong learner. I love to read, and I spend the majority of my free time reading, whether that's business articles or pop culture or news or fiction or industry articles. That is really how I enjoy spending a lot of my free time.
Okay, well, everybody, I have like so many questions. Literally, this last segment was like, whoa. So, can you give me your top 3 latest books you're reading? And then I do have a very specific question about this experience you shared.
I read in a Kindle, so I never know the titles of the books that I'm reading, but I'm currently reading a book about ballet. So I've learned a whole lot. I choose books based upon something that comes up that I don't know anything about. So I was in a conversation with somebody who had been to the ballet. I realized that I know very little about ballet. So I found a fiction novel that had ballet as a central theme. And I'm currently reading a book about ballet.
Well, you have a published writer here, New York bestseller Jeff LaCosta. So
Big book fans, all of us, I think. Yes.
All right. We'll have to start a book club.
Let's do it.
Oh, listen, and regarding ballet, I gifted my family the Nutcracker. So we're going to go see it in 2 weeks. I'm pretty excited. I do have a question about this experience you shared about fashion. Not to mention, if ever you want to launch a side gig in the fashion industry, I'm in. Now I understand why you're always the best dressed person in the industry events.
I tried that, by the way, launching a fashion software.
Wow! We need three recordings with you then.
This is not what you're doing, though. So yeah, there's an interesting story there.
Right.
Oh my God. Okay, I'll ask you this question and then maybe you'll tell us about the fashion, the software. So I'm wondering if you could expand for our listeners, what does it mean being challenged for you? Like when you feel like you're not challenged, what happens? And what happens when instead you feel that you're challenged?
I like to use my brain in the most expansive way possible. So that could be strategic, that could be tactical, but I want to think about a solution and execute on it. So I made up my own challenge. I am a goal-oriented individual, so I made up my own challenge and was successful at it.
how does this experience shape your leadership today? Like, for example, is this something you encourage employees to do? Is, hey, be sure that you're finding creative ways to challenge yourself? Or actually, is that maybe discouraged because it distracts from their core roles? Or I'm just curious how you use that.
Well, I think focus is really important in general. However, I do believe that creativity can be found everywhere. And that leads to happier people using both sides of their brain, but also to more successful business results. So I encourage creative thinking and am a believer that anybody can come up with creative ideas. And I encourage people to bring those to me and have found some fun and exciting ways to build culture and community and to work with new technology for clients' advertising. So I believe in it wholeheartedly.
What are the early signs that you notice that you're getting bored somehow, as an easy way to say non-challenged, like both on yourself and your leaders? Are there any like lingering behaviors? Do you be like, yeah, like this is an early signal that this person is like not challenged enough? I got to give them another project, or even on yourself?
Like I said, I believe that focus is really important. And I think when people are challenged and enjoying what they're doing, they focus. So for myself, I've found that when I start to have wandering thoughts or I have a challenge focusing on what I'm doing or my day to day, for example, that I am starting to get bored. Those are definitely the signs for me. And I think that when I have people around me on my leadership team, for example, who are really passionate about what they do, when I see that they are lacking that passion and focus, that they are likely getting bored as well.
Nancy, as we get to know you as a person, so far, there's this amazing picture of somebody whose career has been a rocket ship from a fax to where you are today, who reads, books on ballet to AI all the time, right? There's this incredible image, which fits to me the caliber of position that you have. And yet, and also, you are a human being. You're a person who gets distracted and has bad days and sees challenges in ways that maybe those around you might not understand. And I'm curious to understand maybe a little bit of that messy side of the leadership role that you have, to kind of unpack behind the resume bullets on LinkedIn and the amazing impact that you're driving every day. Like, what does that actually look like for a human being who's juggling so much life and so much work all at once?
Well, two things. One, I have a 20-year-old son. So I brought up my son as a full-time working mother and had to balance. And that was messy. I'm a morning person. I like to be at my desk at 7:30 in the morning. I had a hard time balancing being there for my son always and being at my desk at 7:30. And I made a decision that I felt was a bit messy at the time, but I wanted to take my son to school every single morning because I thought that was really important time. I'm a morning person. So even though I felt like I could accomplish a lot of good thinking and work in the morning, being at my desk, it was a priority for me to spend that time when I'm at my best with my boy. And I took him to school every single day that he'd allow it. So maybe up until like 9th or 10th grade, and did not get to my desk until 9 or 9:30. But that was an important priority. On the leadership side, though, of the messiness, a great example of this was I was leading a big team when my company at the time got acquired.
Mm.
And that's a messy situation because people become anxious and nervous about their jobs, about the organization, about their leadership. And I had to figure out a way to manage and lead through that messy situation. And I decided to focus on the positives and to act as an umbrella over my team so that the myriad of asks that come during an acquisition and then an integration of two companies, I took on the most that I could so that my team didn't have to feel the chaos and the constant asks from the acquiring company, and they could focus on their day to day and still feel as positive as possible during that sort of challenging time.
It's so interesting what you just shared, because when I listen to the two stories, the one about the commitment on dropping your son to school every day, and so deciding to trade your hours of performance, and that what you did with your team, they sound to me almost the same leadership trait, which is the servant leader. Like in one case, you were in service of your son because you really believed that relationship was so important. And in the second case is in service of your team. What are the risks of being in service, though? Because it's tough. It's not I know all the books are like, oh, the service leader is the best. But what's the toll that you take on you of doing that?
It takes a toll. And like I explained in the umbrella example, it meant that I took on more work myself in order to protect the team from what was happening. So, from a personal standpoint, it certainly takes a toll. And from a leadership standpoint, one can say that that is to that type of an application is too focused on control of a situation.
Mm.
Mm.
Say more.
Well, I mean, as a type A personality, I like to control situations, but you can't always control situations. And it's important to hear from people of different perspectives and those perspectives that are different from your own. So I always want to surround myself with people that will disagree with me and offer me good and new ideas because that makes us all better. I am a firm believer in learning from those around me. I learned early on in life that by listening to people, I could learn so much about them, about what they like, what they want, what they need, and what motivates them. And that's helped me in my leadership style.
Would you call yourself a natural listener or maybe not so much? So I am not a natural listener. I have learned that everything you said is right, but I went through all these hard lessons of being a natural talker and a natural doer. And, there's plenty of good words to describe it too, but, it comes at a cost where for me, I had somebody time how long I talked in a meeting and then share back with me the percentage of time I consumed versus they consumed. And it was such a gift, right? Like on the one hand, it was horrifying. But on the other, it was such a wonderful gift to realize I am bad at this thing called listening. I need to, remember that this is part of my job, but it's not always easy. So I'm curious how you perceive yourself as a listener and then you work on this skill.
Well, first, that's genius. And I'm going to use that. I am not a natural listener, and I have to remind myself not to interrupt and to give people the opportunity to offer their perspectives. And in meetings, I'm constantly reminding myself of it. But as you said, the gift that you received, the golden nuggets of information that I receive from listening to people are so valuable that I know it's the best and right thing to do. And so it's become habit. But again, it's not natural to me.
I was reflecting when you shared the point about listening to others and that you like people that disagree with you. What happens? Because I mean, in the end, you are the CEO of the business. And so you are the ultimate decision maker. And whatever is getting executed, even if you disagree with and still get executed, comes back to you. So what happens when you disagree with someone or they disagree with you, but yet you commit to execute the strategy or the tactics? Like, what happens to you emotionally in that moment?
Well, I'll start by saying that I learned that I need a diverse leadership team, because if everybody looks, acts, and thinks like me, I will not be as successful as I want to be. So I have spent years in my different roles ensuring that I build a diverse leadership team so that those around me, especially as CEO, those around me who are in effect the collaborators and advisors on the business that I run, give me those different perspectives. So, and I encourage that the dissent and disagreement. So some may sit on a call and think, oh, they're arguing. But we are debating because the outcome is one that is more representative and is a better result. I have found that when I ask people for their opinion, they often give me a better idea than I myself had come up with. So that allows me to put multiple opinions and thoughts together in order to come up with a conclusion, an outcome that is more representative and typically more successful.
I am so glad you bring this up, because I've found this to be a bit of an Achilles heel for folks in exactly positions like you are, right? Like, an echo chamber is one of the greatest risks to your success, because you'll have no idea if you're being successful or not. So I'm curious, because you spend so much time thinking about this topic, I think folks generally know, yes, I don't want to live in an echo chamber. So there's something going on where you might be in one without realizing it. So I'm wondering, A, do you have some kind of check that you do? Like, how do you know you're actually not in one? And B, what is the work you're doing? Are there any tips or kind of a guide, steps that you have to ensure you do have a diverse set of opinions and are genuinely kind of getting a vibe for what's really happening in the organization, and you do have those multiple perspectives?
Well, first, when I'm assembling a team or reassembling a team, I empower people to give their opinions and their perspectives. And
how do you do that?
I think I'm a very direct individual. And I therefore tell people, I have somebody who just started working for me. And I told him from the interview process on, he's a C-level executive. Your opinion, your thinking is so valuable to me and to this business. I always want to hear it, even if it is different than mine. And that's how I mean, the people around me they are all very accomplished, and they've gotten to where they are because they are smart and thoughtful and well-read. And that's what I value around me. So they know they're empowered to speak their mind and to offer me that type of perspective.
I love what you're saying. And speaking of books, I just started reading The 48 Laws of Power. I don't know if you guys know that book.
So good. That's a classic.
Have you read it, Jeff?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Nancy, did you know about this book?
No.
So apparently it's something that lots of folks read in the corporate and overall, let's say, power industry. And it's one law for every theme. And within the law, it says examples from history of how this law manifested. So law number 1 is about never outshine your bosses. And so it tells a story from, Mark Aurelius. It's actually, I love that because I'm such an historian and I love reading history. I believe that from history we can learn so much, but it's also very old style. It's a very classical, like, come on, not law number 1, never outshine your boss, right? I'm like, yeah, sure. Anyways, I did like this example and I wanted to ask you a question there because everyone you're saying, I'm like, oh my God, like, this is like the dream CEO. Everyone would want to work for you. And, they want to hear my opinion. I can disagree with them. It's like heaven. And I'm wondering, number 1, have you ever, how would I say this? How does this leadership principle that you have served you or did ever backlash on you? And then number 2, going on the law of never outshining your bosses. Have you ever find yourself in a situation with a boss for you that didn't have this approach and you were like, I'm out of here because you were outshining them?
Yes. I have had those managers, and I've learned the concept of negative or opposite role modeling, which is when I've had a manager like that, it's actually proved to be a great learning experience. Things that I don't want to do, ways that I don't want to act as a leader. So I have found those experiences pretty valuable. But by the way, I should say that I learned this approach very early on. I learned it in college. I was president of my sorority. I had to lead a community of women, and I had no experience. And that is where I really started learning about leadership and leadership skills. And I understood that in order to motivate and inspire people, I had to speak to various people's motivations. And I had to gain consensus. And I had to compromise. And I had to hear the different thoughts of different people in order to accomplish that. And therefore, in order to drive positive results and accomplish my goals. That experience taught me a lot that I've taken with me through my career. And by the way, just as an aside, you spoke about historical business lessons. And I think that through evolution in the world of business, we've learned a lot, like that female leaders can be very successful. So it just reminded me of another college story, which was in college, I had decided that I wanted to be a business leader, that I wanted to be a CEO one day. And I told one of my professors, male professor, whom I had a great deal of respect for and who I really liked, that I wanted to be a CEO one day. And he told me that I needed to reset my expectations because females are not CEOs. And further, CEOs are tall. I'm a female, 5 feet. He didn't believe that I would ever be a CEO.
Please tell me you sent him a card with your job title, how many people you lead. Can we do that? Can we tag this individual on the show and tell them? It's like, I don't know. Okay, don't want to use words that are not allowed. Did you send him a note?
I didn't. The funny thing is that I really liked him and respected him and still did. He came from a generation where that was the way things went. I've recently started watching Mad Men for the first time. And I'm shocked about the way women are treated in business in the first season. But it was how people behaved and they didn't know better.
Mad Men is painful. Sorry, Jeff.
Have you really seen this to be a time past? Because I'm sure, I would guess maybe, like stereotypically, you said we had to learn women can be successful. Wow, what a sad thing to have to learn. And yet, there's plenty of people that still haven't learned that, it seems to me. So I'm wondering if you still face that, or maybe if the industry you're in, the worlds that you operate in, maybe have made much more progress than other places. I would guess not, but I'm curious if you really feel like we're kind of living in a post-sexist world in your world.
Such a good way of putting it, Jeff.
I think so. I think that women are well respected in the boardroom, if you will, today, especially in the world of media and ad tech and martech. But I do have one gentleman who works for me. He's worked for me for a long time. And he is infuriated. He is furious when we're in a meeting with somebody who hasn't done their research on us and looks at him the whole meeting because they believe that he is the decision maker and the senior person in the room. He just goes crazy about it. And it does still happen, but I'd say not as frequently as it did 5 years ago or 5 years before that. And I like to mentor women, young women especially, about the business world and about things that are important for them to do in order to grow their careers and to be well respected. And one of those lessons is you have to ask for what you want. Nobody is going to hand you or give you the next job or the next responsibility. Ask for what you want, but always have the data to back up the ask and the assertions.
Closed mouths don't get fed. Nancy, I want to go back for a minute to that moment when that college professor told you that you needed to reset your expectations. And what was the fuel that you leveraged to get the grit and resilience to get where you are? Because I'm sure that thought was not only of this college professor. You might have met several leaders that they were thinking the same, and yet you persevered. So what drove you?
The desire and goal and vision of leading a business. I knew it then, and I knew it every day until my first leadership role and my first CEO job. And I always remembered what he said. It was always in the back of my mind. And by the way, like everybody else, I've had the experiences where I have failed or made mistakes, like the fashion software idea that I mentioned before. Even those things they may have been discouraging for a short period of time, discouraged me for a short period of time, but I learned from those experiences and kept going. I set goals and I drive myself to accomplish them.
Can I ask you, what is your next goal that you're setting up for yourself? And then I'm sure Jeff has other questions.
My future is about continuing to grow in leadership roles. So that may mean in the current agency world that I'm in, that may mean in the world of tech, that may mean in a small company, a large company, but I just want to continue to grow my experiences and to do new things, try out new opportunities.
When you think about your future career, I do think this is a fascinating topic because, you made it. And a lot of, many folks would look at your resume and go like, wow, that's the top of the mountain. Congratulations. And here you are saying, yeah, I want to keep growing. I want to keep having new experiences. And I'm curious what somebody like you would consider valuable new experiences. Is it more people, different technology, political challenges, or what gets you kind of interested in growth after you've reached the position that you already have reached?
Like I said, I'm a lifelong learner. So any area where I can learn something new is important to me, and I consider a new milestone. So a role in an industry or a company that I'm not as familiar with is inspiring because I will learn ultimately about something different and new and learn how to lead in that type of an environment. But I am passionate about technology, all different facets of technology. And so I think that my ultimate goal one day will be to lead some sort of new technology that can help revolutionize some part of the world we live in, whether that is working smarter and faster or helping to cure a disease or helping to, I don't know, solve the next wave of home automation.
Yes, please do those things.
I mean, hashtag watch this space, Nancy.
Well, I want to bring it full circle because you alluded to kind of the failed software company now twice. So can you tell us the story real quick of a goal that was not hit here?
It's not that exciting, but I decided when I left the fashion industry and technology and this internet thing were new, I had an idea that was always in my mind, which was that I could use technology. I could build software that would allow people to update their closets and their wardrobes seasonally based upon trends. And that if they could buy as a result of this software advising on what they needed to update their wardrobes, it would be revolutionary.
It's a genius idea.
So I found a developer who built the software for me. I wrote a business plan and I hit the street to find funding. I had to pay my rent. I lived in Manhattan. So I worked at a bar at night and it was challenging. I found the experience both humiliating and humbling. And I couldn't keep it up. I mean, I couldn't keep it going for longer than about 9-10 months. And further, the idea was too early. Today, it exists. And today, the idea would sell. I would be able to get funding today in a month.
Yes.
But then people didn't really understand what I was talking about. I thought about predictive nature of technology and how that could help to inform somebody's decisions around their wardrobe. And I thought about the opportunity to buy in an easier and simpler fashion when one didn't live in the shopping mecca of New York City. But nobody really understood it at the time. So I found a job at a place called fashionmall.com in the paper version of the New York Times,
There you go.
faxed my resume, took it, and launched my career in this business.
So you used a strong word, humiliating, there. I mean, now we're looking back going, what dummies? Obviously, they should have funded this idea that now is, you're right, out there and successful. At the time, what was humiliating about it?
One, men looking at me like I was absolutely crazy. First of all, why would somebody want that and need it? And second of all, how can technology enable women to understand how to update their wardrobes? And third, I worked in a bar at night, and that was not easy.
Are you looking for a publisher to publish your memoir anytime soon? There's so many juicy nuggets that you've been sharing. Like, those gotta be collected somewhere.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Not at this time.
Not at this time. When you're ready, Jeff and I can totally help. So we are approaching the end of the show, but I hope Jeff will agree with me that we could speak with you for many more hours. And we always close our episodes with one question, which is, what is your word of wisdom for our listeners?
Be kind to everyone. You don't know who will be your boss tomorrow, your cube mate next week, or your client next year. It's important to be kind to everyone. And the other thing I would say, which I've said all throughout, is be curious and listen. The golden nuggets will help you in life.
We love you.
I love this so much. Nancy, where can people find you, connect, reach out? What are your socials?
I'm on LinkedIn and I'm on Instagram.
Well, I'm going to start following you on Instagram. If you promise me that you share fashion tips. I think you know that project with the software, who knows, maybe something will happen in reverse. And Jeff and I are so grateful that you kindly gifted us an hour of your time to inspire our listeners. So we love you.
Well, Nadia, Jeff, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and to talk with you both, and I've enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Fantastic conversation.
Oh, I love Nancy. I get the pleasure of working with her. And I got to tell you, her giving us an hour of her time is absolutely incredible. She is in high demand, obviously, given a leadership position. So I feel grateful that she was with us today.
Totally agree. Just spending that time with her, you can tell she is amazing. It's so rare, and it just gives you these great goosebumps to hear somebody be told they can't do something, and then to, stick it right in their face by achieving the thing they're told they can't. Like, those moments are what you dream of when you're a kid, and here she is having done it. It's amazing.
I wish that this college professor listened to this podcast when it's out.
Yeah, totally. Maybe we'll send him a note. All right, Nadia. Well, as we do, what are you taking away from that conversation?
So many. Well, you know that I'm, very big supporter of female leadership and advancements, but I want to take a different spin. I really enjoyed the part of the disagreement, when she was saying, I always hire people that are different than me, and I encourage disagreement, and that whole segment was insightful, and I really enjoyed it because I find myself very aligned with the same thinking. And I do make a proactive effort, even in my team meetings, to extract people's opinions, right? Even when they're different. Now, I do think that it's also a fine line, because at some point, being you the leader responsible of whatever gets executed, it does require a huge growth mindset in evaluating opinions that are a lot different than ours, but in a way that is objective. So that point for me I could have stayed an hour talking only about that. I am left, though, with the question of how to empower your people to feel safe in disagreeing, because there's authority, there's power, and how do you make it that is part of the trust that even if you disagree with me, it won't backlash on you in repercussions? So that whole segment for me was fascinating. Yeah. I loved that. And I want to make sure that as a leader, I do more of that as well.
Well, and I love what Nancy said, which was tell them to be open and honest with you. Gosh, I mean, it came off her lips just so lightly and easily. Like, of course, this is what I do. I just look at them and I say, I need this from you. Provide your honest opinion. And I don't think enough folks maybe do that because they think they're radiating, the psych safety or the openness or the whatever. But it goes a long way to just speak into the world what you want. And that, she said, I'm very direct. And that was a very direct approach. And I'm a fan of it. What she didn't say that I also think is working in her favor is her demeanor and the way that she operates, from like a cultural standpoint, which I think we got a taste of in the podcast. Pretty casual. I think this, but what do you think? It's one thing to say, oh, I kind of think this and tell me what you think versus this is the way it's going to be. Like you can state your opinions in multiple different ways. And I can tell that her style, maybe is the best way to say it, also is one that would create the safety to share other opinions. And I think that works in her favor, in addition to telling people, directly to be open and honest. I really enjoyed that as well.
She is definitely a special one. And I always wonder, how can we have more leaders like that in such high ranking position, inspiring people? That's what human leadership is about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good when you meet folks who really deserve to be where they are. I don't know, maybe that sounds bad, but she clearly is rocking it and worked her butt off to be there, which is amazing.
She does deserve it. Well, Jeff, good to see you and good to see everybody. As always, when you like our episodes and when you support us with your 5-star, you help 99 Humans become even of a bigger project. Jeff and I are working on our book that it's coming soon. So thank you for your love. Thank you for your support. And we shall see you next week.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.